Hello, everybody. Welcome to Super. It's a comic book show, and we've got a lot to talk about this week. Good time to have an inaugural episode because the Oscars just blew my mind. We've got a record-setting comic book year, and I'm a big SpiderVerse fan, so you know I'm happy with how it came out last night.
Yeah, for sure. Like, you have no idea. Like, it was a good movie. I enjoyed it. This guy worships this movie.
It's just so good.
I agree with him. It was good. I would probably be on the same page, but I had the stomach flu when we went to go see it, so I felt like hell throughout the entire movie. I need to watch it again. I really do, which is fun because at the time this video is airing, I'm pretty sure it's out for a digital release.
Yeah, it came out for digital release today, premiering on physical copies, Blu-rays, all of that next month. I think on the 18th. Gonna have to fact check me on that.
I'm gonna have to.
We'll figure it out. So, before we go any further with the Oscar stuff, a few other things that we'll touch on. Jessica Chastain is going to be on The Tonight Show, I think on Wednesday.
Okay.
And with her, we may be getting a Dark Phoenix trailer because it has been submitted for review in Germany. I think it's already got it approved and a rating. Okay. So, should be coming our way pretty soon. Just seemed like it would make sense with the timing. We can dive into that a little bit later if you'd like to. I know you're more of a fan of the XMen movies than I was. I don't mind them, just not super caught up to date on them.
They are not necessarily to a T with the comics like most of the MCU is now. Of course, you know, Fox did its own thing. I like it for what it is because as far as like Marvel goes, I'm not like a hardcore comic book. It has to be by the book perfect. Like I'm fine with different iterations. I have friends that absolutely hate the X-Men movies. I once had a conversation about it because I had just got back into watching them. I had just bought them all, and I was like, I was really enjoying them. And my friend Ben's like, hey, you never asked me what I thought about the X-Men movies. I was like, sure, Ben, what do you think? He goes, I hate them. I was like, why? He's like, I think they're stupid. That line from Cyclops, what were you expecting? Yellow spandex? Yes, I was. That's exactly what Wolverine is. And I was just like, calm down, man. It's okay.
Pump the brakes, bud. We'll be all right.
You know, Hugh Jackman does a great job. I love the X-Men films. The kind of a prequel style that they've been doing with the younger cast, I really like. The casting on it, I think, is perfect. I think Dark Phoenix is going to be... I think Dark Phoenix is really going to be what it needs to show the real side of Dark Phoenix. We got a little bit of it in X3.
Yeah, they mostly bundled it,
weird.
But there were some elements that weren't horrible either. Like
it wasn't bad, but it wasn't perfect. So going back and revisiting it with the younger cast, I think it's gonna like really help build up the story and give it more reliability, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Especially since really they're coming toward the end of their product with the X-Men before Disney's just like, let me just add that to the gauntlet real fast.
Yeah, Kevin Feige's just over here taking things from everybody and adding it to the collection piece by piece. And if anyone's going to wield the Infinity Stones, I trust Kevin Feige. Whatever.
It's just like, there we go. We got the MCU. We were going to get, there we go. There's the X-Men. There's Planet Hulk. Fantastic Four.
There's a lot of stuff coming together.
And they said, you can keep Deadpool. You can keep that one.
It's like, we'll decide what we're doing with that one.
We don't know what we're doing with it yet.
Another thing that I thought was interesting, New Mutants is kind of being thrown around as maybe it's even getting delayed again. There's a rumor, it's in the wind right now. I haven't seen anything super credible about it, but there's been some call to question on that. I'd like to see the movie. It's probably going to be bad at this rate.
I've been hearing some stuff that they're still planning to release it this year. I don't know how.
I've heard that like 2 weeks ago that it was still going this year, probably to Hulu. I've looked more.
Going directly to Hulu?
That was the rumor that it was pushing more towards that way. But now we've got some word that they may try to push past their, let Dark Phoenix set in the wind and just push New Mutants maybe to the start of the year and go into theaters. I don't know what they're going to do. Don't even really want to talk about it. Just thought it was interesting.
New Mutants does not keep my attention at all. I do not think it's going to be interesting. I have no hype for it whatsoever. My focus, X-Men wise, in that area is definitely on Dark Phoenix. I am well set on that.
Yeah, I'm still excited for Dark Phoenix. I was very excited for New Mutants when it first started filming and we first started getting pieces of what the movie could be. But between like 8 sets of reshoots or however many they're on now, it has died down quite a bit for me. I am still interested to see the final product because it's something different. And even if it doesn't land extremely well, just like Venom, I'm glad studios are taking shots at something that isn't great.
Yeah.
Like it's not something that you could pull and you're like, oh, thousands of people are clearly already interested in this. Let's do it. New Mutants is a popular run, but it's not popular in the way some of the stuff that they're trying to pull from inside of the bigger plan with the X-Men stuff. They're not bringing Apocalypse in. It's not like
No.
Yeah, it's not like a star-studded name. It's just let's try something. It could work. Maybe it's going to be a little rough. We'll see. Because Venom, not a particularly great movie,
But it wasn't a bad movie.
and it was super fun. So I think if you can get some aspect like that, just banking on it being entertaining
Absolutely.
or being scary in a good horror movie, whatever. I'll go along with the ride. I don't need it to be a masterpiece. I don't need it to be Infinity War or Black Panther, whatever. But speaking of Black Panther, to go back to the Oscars thing,
Yeah, let's stick with the Oscars for a little bit here because apparently Black Panther is now what was the word? The most glorified movie?
it's the most decorated superhero film of all time, surpassing, I think, The Dark Knight had 2 Oscars. I don't remember what they were for.
And The Incredibles.
The
had two.
Incredibles had 2 as well. Black Panther won for Best Costume, Best Original Score, and Best Production Design, which all 3 are great, but when you're nominated for Best Picture and you lose out in a year that there was already a surprise winner, does sting just a little bit, but I'm happy with where we're at. This was a great year for representation in comic book media, with SpiderVerse killing it at the Oscars as well, bringing in Miles and a different tone of Spider-Man. Really a love letter to New York style movie. Black Panther just got Wakanda right. It got the essence of the characters right, and it told a fantastic story with great actors and a great score, great costumes, great production. Everything about the movie was good.
Therefore, you got them all. And I agree with you. I do think it was great that they got Best Costume Design because the look of it is so sleek. Like, it's supposed to be all black, but you get, like, the purple highlights in there. And it's so clean. I'm just like, ooh, yeah, I like that. Plus, his armor can't be destroyed. So, like...
Yeah, I mean, when you're working with that level of technology...
You got nothing to worry about.
And a superpowered lotus flower situation, yeah, you're good.
You got nothing to worry about. I think it did kind of get robbed a little bit for it becoming Best Picture, but...
Realistically, I don't think it would have won this year. My pick was on Roma, even though Green Book won. That's what I thought was going to take the conversation forward. Everyone was buzzing about Roma. I didn't particularly care for the movie. I watched it 2 weeks ago. Not really my cup of tea. I could see why people loved it. It did tell a nice story. Cinematography, which I think it won for, was fantastic. The movie looked great. I just wasn't super into it, but I've also spent more of the last year and a half in the world of comic books and things that are just visually stimulating and just keeps you on a wild ride kind of mentality. So maybe I just don't have the subtle love for film in this mood. Like, I can appreciate it. It was done very well. Surprised that it even lost, to be honest, because that seemed to be the consensus favorite from everybody that I had heard from. But yeah, had Black Panther won, yeah, it takes us over the edge completely. But what it did already, as far as representation and bringing more people to the stage in comic book movies and media in general, I think it accomplished everything that it set out to do, plus more, and I couldn't be even happier, really. Like, the way it turned out is fantastic.
And I think what's better about it is just, like, it shows, and I mean, like, sure, they've gotten Oscars in the past, but it just shows, like, it's being more consistent, that superhero movies are being more recognized as, like, a real genre that stands out, because, like, we've been getting superhero movies, like, non-stop since at least, like, 2000,
Yeah, really, since about 99, 2000, since Blade came out.
It's just kind of been, like, it's just been rolling, and they're just getting better and better, and, a lot of people are saying, like, it kind of needs to die down. I know James Cameron's all like, I hope the want for superhero movies comes down, and I'm like, go back to your Blue People movies.
I think James Cameron is off base, but I get where the concern is. I just think that people are viewing comic book movies as a version of movie, when really it's just stories that are being adapted from a medium.
It's action fantasy. They're action movies. That's what they are. So, I mean, I think they should be classified as action. I mean, if it wants to be classified as a comic book movie, I mean, I'm not mad about it. I mean, it makes it easier for me to search it online.
Now, to give a nice comparison, The Great Gatsby, adapted from the novel, recently, was that 2013, 2014?
Yeah.
Really wasn't a great movie. I think it was
not
fun. Baz Luhrmann, I think, is the one who did that, had a Jay-Z soundtrack. I thought it was fun. It was a modern shot on something, and even if it didn't pan out, it wasn't because Harry Potter and the Hunger Games and those adapted from books, in a very similar style movies were coming out. Like, that's kind of the comparison people are drawing with the comic book movies, where it's like, take Umbrella Academy that just debuted on Netflix, full season, fantastic, weird show, really takes some risk. Then compare that against Black Panther, where it's like, this is a superhero movie set in a different country with different rules and ways of life.
Yeah.
Like, there's no comparison there. Like, you can't really forge anything out of that, but they come from the same medium. They come from comic books. I don't think the bubble's really ready to pop. I think it's just people who are upset that there is so much trend behind the superhero stuff, so that if they're not making that, they're not reaping the benefits of it. And James Cameron, I mean, he kind of planted his flag with Avatar and is not letting that one go, so whatever, man. You and your 4 sequels are doing just fine. Stay in your own lane.
I was gonna say, he wants to make 5, 6 sequels out of that movie that are already planned. I'm not gonna watch them, but
I'll watch them for sure.
I just don't find them interesting. So I mean, I don't see why everyone has to A lot of people just like to bash the movie sometimes, and I don't understand why. I mean, they're not bad. It's good storytelling. You just think it's nerd related, so you're too cool for it. But I mean, it's fine. Leave all the fun stuff for us. We'll gladly enjoy it. And I think it's also showing with not only Black Panther winning all of these Oscars, but the fact that we have Into the SpiderVerse that just came out and is already, boom, got its Oscar right there for Best Animated Feature. I know you said that you think it should have been Best Picture, but...
I think it was quality enough to make it into the Best Picture category. Right now, I just don't think culturally we're at a point where that would have gone over. I don't think people would have understood it, but I think we're trending in that direction.
Right, and I totally agree with you too, because really when you look at it, it was simply the fact that it was an animated movie. Sure, it was comic book related, but the fact that it was animated, it was very interesting animation is that. It wasn't your typical like Pixar Disney film. It was very kind of choppy and really colorful, but it was a great appealing to look at. So when you take that into account with everything else that it was up against, if it were to be up there for Best Picture, the fact that it was an animated film literally just cut its chances. And I hate that that's the case, but at least it got Best Animated Film, so it was there and it got what it deserved, especially when going up against Incredibles 2 and Ralph Breaks the Internet. Mm-hmm. Sure, Ralph Breaks the Internet, it did great. It was a great movie. It's really fun. But, I mean, it's not going to be up to par with something like The Incredibles. However, I do think that if The Incredibles 2 had been released a lot earlier, like it should have, it probably would have won then, because you still had a good hype from the first film. Even though there was plenty of hype leading up to this, because you announce a Disney or a Pixar sequel that far out, especially like something with Toy Story as well, you get a bigger hype factor because you're like, everyone that was our age when the first one came out is seeing the second one. They're like, oh, I'm so excited for this. I'm going to go see this. I'm going to be like the oldest kid in the theater.
Yeah.
But I think they waited too long for it, and that's what cut its chances of winning Best Animated Feature.
I don't think they waited too long because the hype was clearly still there. If you saw the crowds on the opening days, that movie pulled the love that I think it was aiming for. I think everyone who I've talked to enjoyed the movie. I just think the competition has gotten a lot stiffer in recent years, particularly when it comes to the level of competition in the field versus the judging. The judging criteria, I think, is getting wider. Different types of animation are getting accepted. Like Mirai was up. And that is a fantastic film. It's shot incredibly well. Like, everything was designed just out of this world beautiful. But against an action-heavy type of movie like SpiderVerse or The Incredibles, Ralph Breaks the Internet, kind of the in-between, because it's action-based, but it's got
some action in it, but it is mainly, it's the classic Disney comedy film that we all know.
So I think against that kind of movie, it definitely, in the case of The Incredibles, didn't stand out enough from the field because there was just so many now that are being made that are really good. Where it's like, yeah, they were making great movies 15 years ago, 16 years ago with the animated stuff, but the first one was top of its class. It stands out as one of the best, if not the best of all time.
I agree.
This one, just not quite as good. Still great, but not elite. And I think that's kind of what hurts it more, whereas Spider-Verse taking a shot on something completely brand new, it's like The Incredibles all over again. It's like, oh, this is a completely new take on something that's familiar enough that even if you don't know who Miles Morales is, even if you're only vaguely aware of the Spider-Man lore, you can get behind just the whole colorful appeal of the movie. You can get behind the characters because John Hamm's hilarious. Jake Johnson just crushes it. Shamik Moore as Miles is relatable, and the family dynamic is just
Nick Cage.
Nick Cage. When you hear that, it's like undeniable. That man killed it for the movie. Absolutely loved it. I would have liked to have seen just another hour and a half of Spider Noir. Just like go.
And let me ask you: do you think this film would have been as well received and done as well if it had been a live action film? It could have still have been separate from the MCU, obviously with Tom Holland playing Spider-Man. But if they were just to do that movie in live action, do you think it would have done as well?
I don't know what that looks like, so I'm going to say no.
Okay.
Just because I don't think there's so much that's specific to the animation that they did. So much of the wonder of the movie is in the animation that probably wouldn't have gone over so well. Like there's a lot of tracking that they did, particularly to make it feel more comic book-esque. They did the Kirby dot style. I mean, there's just so many love letter kind of things to comic books that you can really pour into the animation that it just doesn't really, I don't think it would have come across as well in a live action setting.
Okay.
If you do like the comic book, like word bubbles as he's running by people.
Yeah.
That could have been interesting in live action, but I don't think it comes out as like, as home feeling, as natural as it does in the animation style.
Okay.
But that would be interesting to see a multiple comic book character, whether it's Spider-Man or even if you did like a DC Crisis kind of thing where
I'd be down for it.
You're meeting different versions of each character or something like that. Like, I could see that working, but it would have to be significantly different.
Earth 2.
It would have to be significantly different from what we saw in SpiderVerse because the entirety of the movie was planned around being this like wildly loving animated feature.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree.
So, moving next to what was, we were talking about New Mutants, we talked about Dark Phoenix. We have, one thing that I wanted to bring up. Venom number 11 came out this week, and the response to the story has been ridiculous.
Was this the tweet you were telling me about when he said it's like, these come out tomorrow, everyone's about to hate me?
Yes. Don Cates publicly acknowledges things on Twitter about the comic books that he's providing. He's an author that you can follow and just see the whole progression sometimes. He'll sneak things in on Twitter that you don't realize is going to be a reference to an issue down the line, that kind of thing. He's been receiving death threats over the turn in Venom number 11. And that is unacceptable. Like,
why?
I won't spoil it for you all. I'll talk to him off camera. We can kind of dive into it a little bit. But
is it just like whatever happens in the story?
Yeah, there's a twist on a classic idea, I guess you could say.
Sure, we'll keep it very blank for the viewers at home.
Yeah, so I'm not gonna spoil it. Just please read it. Support Venom number 11 is a very good book in itself, but the line that it's coming from, this new Venom line, is amazing. So please go check that out. Give it a read. I just started it 2 or 3 weeks ago, I think it was. I'm slowly caught up over the last few weeks, and each book keeps surprising me. There's something new. There's a lot of callbacks in number 11 to stuff that you've seen earlier in that comic that if you're paying close attention, you're gonna love it. It is great. But his take on this, just people are not happy with. And I think it's an unreasonable group, obviously. I don't think it's the general public. I think everyone else can understand that the book is great. But man, when I saw that, I was like, what the hell are we doing?
What was the other one that had come out? He said that he was about to wake up and everyone was going to be angry about Venom number 11, and there was another one he'd mentioned. Do you remember what it was?
I don't remember.
It was volume 1 of something, I think.
Not sure.
Oh, awkward.
Anyway, like I say, it makes me question what we're doing in today's era of fan relationships. Like, in an age where we have direct access to a lot of these authors and writers for whether it's comic books or novels or movies, actors, whatever it is, we have pretty direct lines of contact with them via Twitter, Facebook, all the socials that people are actively on. And the fact that we keep having situations like this, like we did with Rose Tico in Star Wars. Donnie is another example of this thing has elevated out of control to the point where it's not fun. Like, these are supposed to be something to love and enjoy, and it's a lot of hard work going into something for people to appreciate. And if you dislike it, whatever, it's okay. Not every comic has to be your cup of tea. Not every story for every character is going to hit.
I don't think you need to risk like going to prison for threatening the author of a comic book.
It's just absolutely ridiculous, and it has to stop. Just flat out. There's no accepting this. If you're seeing it, if you are involved in it, shame on you. Please just stop. Flat out.
Yeah, that's about it for that.
And to wrap things up, I do have a couple of questions. Just want to talk back and forth between the two of us for a minute.
Sure, go for it.
So we know what we've got coming this year in Endgame, Captain Marvel, Shazam, all of the stuff that's coming down the pipeline.
Okay.
What is, if you could pick one movie, whether it be Marvel, whether it be DC, if you could pick one thing to see in this continuum, what's the character or movie, or what is the one thing that you'd like to see added if you could throw your own thing into the universe for either one of these sides?
Like besides what's already been announced, or at least,
Yeah,
what's already like coming out this year. If I could just add one thing?
If you could just modify or throw another one in, what would be your pick?
Nightwing.
You're gonna do Nightwing?
1000% would do Nightwing.
All right.
Or I'm gonna go with my favorite, which would be if we get a Batman Beyond live action film. Everyone wants it. Bring Michael Keaton back to reclaim the whole Tim Burton style Batman. So have him come back as the older Bruce Wayne. Get Terry McGinnis played by Robbie Amell. It would be great. Don't at me.
I think that could be really good. I like the Robbie Amell pick, and yeah, if we can get Michael Keaton back as Batman,
he's literally the greatest actor alive.
I really think it could be an extremely fun way to tie everything together, and just another way to represent just the love we have. We've seen this guy comes in, kills it on the Marvel side as well. I mean, who expected that performance?
His performance as the Vulture was amazing. So still, when Peter goes to pick up,
oh yeah,
I got him blanking on her name.
Liz.
When he goes to pick up Liz for the dance and he opens the door and he's standing right there, and I was just like, oh. And then that scene in the car.
Oh, it's terrifying.
The best acting ever. Just, I'll kill you. And everybody do you love. Do you understand me? Just like, ugh.
What's crazy about that character to me is he does such a good job of making the human being behind the Vulture so terrifying that I'm almost not even afraid of the machine wings and all of that. I'm afraid of the person behind the suit.
Because when you look at like the comic versions of the Vulture, he's a really old man, and the suit is what gives him the ability to do what he does. Mm-hmm. And I mean, sure, you can see the same thing, in the film, but he's not necessarily as old, and he can still kind of hold his own. Of course, yeah, it is Michael Keaton, but the character, at least in the film, can hold his own. He doesn't necessarily need the suit to like sustain everything like he does in the comics a lot of the time.
It's just kind of an accessory to help. It's not the only like lifeline of the character.
Yeah, but it's what makes him the Vulture, so.
All right, so if I could have my own, one thing thrown in, I would like to see, with this cast of the DC universe that we've got going on,
I thought you were going to say Nova, honestly.
Oh, I think Nova's coming.
Okay.
I think that it's already on its way, so I'm going to leave that one out. That is my number one pick. I want a Nova movie so damn bad it's ridiculous, but it seems to be like it's coming down the pipeline for Marvel. I would speed that up if possible, but if we're going with something new, if we're going with something a little off the beaten path, I'd like to take this DC universe and whoever does end up being Green Lantern, whenever we're getting to that point, it's coming. We know Green Lantern Corps is on the way. So whenever we get that information, I want to see these guys in an Injustice storyline, because I think that is one of the best pieces of weird, like, twist to the original, put your own kind of style to it, storytelling that we've seen in comic books in a long time. I don't know why I love it so much, but everything in the Injustice universe, anything that has that feel to it, I'm all on board. It's just been great.
That's just fantastic. A Shazam movie gets announced and you want to watch Superman blow up his head.
It doesn't have to be that exact storyline, but something with that feel, what I would love to see that take. Even like, if you think Battle World kind of style, where it's just like an arena fight, I'm down for that. Like, whatever it is, some type of pit them against each other kind of action-based, let's just go crazy with it, that would be my pick. Because I think these guys, especially Jason Momoa as Aquaman, like, he's got the physicality. I think Henry Cavill also has just, like, when you see him as Superman, you don't question the fact that, like, oh, he could punch my head off.
Yeah, for real. Henry Cavill is a scary man.
So I'd love to see that kind of approach with this set, because I think the dark grittiness that we've already got kind of established in this universe would lend itself really well to that world. And plus it would give you a chance to throw in some more minor characters and fill out the backstory of, you know, some of them. You could add in a Joker that doesn't stay. So, you know, like they did with Jared Leto, kind of bombed. You could test a new guy out by saying, oh, it's this dude, and here's his backdrop. And he could die in that film, and you're like, oh, okay, so like, we got to try.
I'll do it.
Okay, you can go out there, 2 seconds, you get blasted by Superman, you're done for.
Awesome.
But you could throw in some weird, you know, callback villains from, you know, old DC comics. You could involve a lot of people that aren't necessarily important and just have a lot of fun. And plus, any reason to get Swamp Thing on board? Whatever. Like,
You've been waiting on that forever.
So to close things up, 1, thank you all for watching. 2, we have a lot of stuff coming down the pipeline. This is the first, you know, initial version of this show. This is the first run we've ever done of it. So it was a little all over the place, but it's fun. We enjoyed doing it. I'm sure, you know, I had a great time.
This was the most stressful part.
Yeah, we're still trying to get this thing completely correct.
It took 14 hours to paint this.
We bought it on Amazon. For like $50. But anyway, thank you all for watching. Let me know if you have any other suggestions for the show, anything you'd like to hear us talk about. We did have to kind of shotgun this one a little bit. You know, it's just the day after the Oscars. We wanted to talk about that. So it wasn't as organized, wasn't as clean. We'll get it fixed. We'll get it suited right up. If you're interested in this and want to see more of us talking, or, you know, whatever, we've got a podcast out. You can go listen to that. If you like Star Wars, well, we're about to record a second episode of our Star Wars show, still untitled. So we got to figure that part out.
Yeah, untitled, but I know what we're talking about today.
We do know what we're talking about. So follow along. I will let you in that we do have a Harry Potter show coming along as well. I think we're calling that the Ravenclaw Roundtable. If that interests you at all, please subscribe. Follow us on Twitter at Silver Age Media. Instagram is up. You can follow there. Still building that one a little bit. It's not completely finished, but Twitter, YouTube, those are the important ones. Please follow along. We appreciate you guys, and we'll see you next time.